should be live now on Riverside and on the Synadia YouTube channel. My name is Nate and I like NATS. Welcome to the NATS.io community office hours. I am alone this week and we're going to be talking a little bit about a chat application that I've been making for a series of YouTube videos. Hoping to make a terminal user interface, so a TUI app, if you've heard of such a thing. Let's just go ahead and let's verify that we are live on YouTube. We are. The thumbnail is incorrect, but I can fix that later. And I should be able to link that precisely. Hello, Bro Nifty. Great to see you. Great to see you in the YouTube chat. So we've got a couple things with the setup. I went live a little early. Not as early as I might have hoped, but a little early to test things out. I did have a backup multi-stream for the YouTube connection, but that seems to be working. The next bit is going to be using Riverside for a inline screen share. So we're going to do some OBS magic and see if it works. I think it'll work, but the optimization might make the screen blurry. So we're going to have to make sure that the screen share actually works on the webcam channel. But yeah, so this is cool. Just posting to some of the socials. All right. Now, as per usual, this is office hours, so Q&A is completely welcome. If you have questions, if you're working on anything with NATS, if you're building something with NATS, first of all, we'd love to hear about what you're building. We'd love to hear from you in the chat. Also, happy Halloween, and how is your Thursday going? Today is a special day, so we've got a little bit of... We've got some announcements, so I can actually give a little bit of updates because we haven't been here for an office hours in a few weeks here, most of the month of October, to be honest. And then let's just verify that I have chat available. Not sure if there's anybody on the Riverside chat, but I should be able to see that here. Should be able to see Twitch chat over here. All right. I believe we are ready to go. Curious. All right. It is funny. All right, cool. Riverside. John is asking, what is Riverside? Let me just test here to make sure I can see this. Cool. Yeah, so Riverside is a podcast. Well, initially it was a podcasting application, and they have a really nice setup for joining a call and doing a remote podcast with somebody else, right? I hope you all couldn't hear that noise. That was quite loud. Let me make sure I mute that channel. But yeah, so Riverside helps with hosting people. Hey, Cypher and Emma, what is up? Good to see you. Yeah, did you hear the pling? But yeah, so Riverside helps for hosting podcast conversations, and it's really nice for doing remote podcasts for people and being able to connect. You can both go online and join with a webcam. The cool features they've added this year is, I mean, first of all, their defining feature in my mind is they have really good local recordings. So we get recordings of, you know, everybody who joins, really. So if you have multiple people join the call, it does local recordings. It's Walmart. I mean, honestly, a lot of the newer features, especially for live streaming, has kind of evolved towards that. But yeah, it's helpful for us because it broadcasts to YouTube. When it does work, we have had issues with that, so I had a backup prepared this morning. But it looks like we are live on YouTube. We are live on Twitch. If I can find my YouTube chat that is broken out. Yeah, there we go. All right, cool. Now we can test out how this is going to look with the screen share. So this is the first bit that might get tricky. Let's see if we go ahead and switch over to this screen. That's interesting. It seems the capture card is like lagging, broken. Here we go. All right, should be code. Tech support, good to see you. Good to see you. Yeah, so here we got some Go code, and the question is whether this looks good in Riverside, because I suspect there may be some sampling issues. Let me actually see if I can get somebody to help out. I can also check for myself. Yeah, so if this text is more blocky, which I suspect may be the case, then we may need to attempt something else. Oh, no. All right. We are good. Hopefully we are good. All right. So that goes to the full screen. Yeah, so the other option here is that I should be able to join and screen share directly from this computer, which should work better on Riverside. All right. How is everyone doing today? Again, happy Halloween. It's not often we are live on a holiday. All right, I need to like switch multiple things. Uh-oh. Did I break it entirely? Action peaks for the TUI. Okay, cool. So here I should be able to join and screen share. The real question is if it kicks me out, which it hopefully will not. That should be muted already. And can turn both of these off to join the studio. Now, I'm curious if we see... All right, hide myself, but then can I screen share? All right, if this requires a quit, it will require a quit. Fantastic. That's what we love to see. All right, appreciate y'all bearing with me here. So once we get this pulled up, then we will hop straight into an Excalidraw and talk a little bit about things. I am using headphones. Hide this participant, but share the screen. And if things are going well, we should see my browser here. Okay, cool. So this should be sharing this screen. We've got the bubble tea docs up, and we're going to pull up, actually maybe stop sharing for a second in case I need to log in, pull up an Excalidraw where we can go ahead and draft some things out. All right. Zed released remote server support, and it's kind of awesome. Ooh, interesting. That's going to be big for Zed in the editor wars, because that's going to do some... That'll be some really cool capabilities. Okay, so now you should see my screen here. You should see my terminal as well, and that's on Riverside. So I think I just have to leave that window open. Yeah, you on Twitch will not. All right. So okay, that camera was restarted. Now Twitch should see my screen. And we should still have YouTube chat and Riverside Studio chat. There we go. We got the live stream chat up over there. And I just want to verify that you can see the screen. Did the screen share restart on the MacBook? Yeah, I'm not seeing myself on Riverside. So I think this may be... Riverside is what we use for the live broadcasts as well as for people calling in. So it's very helpful from that perspective. I guess I can't hide my video on the second one. I'm going to need more monitors to get this working. Nix, how are you doing? Happy Halloween. Happy Halloween. Okay, the screen share stopped. Okay. Now we've got a screen share. Text looking super crispy. Thank you. Yeah, I blew up the terminal screen size just a bit here. We can hide that screen sharing notification. And now we should have a proper screen share that's not pixelated or blurry. Been writing a D&D adventure rulebook. Very nice. And I guess I can just pull up the studio chat here and keep a little bit more control over things. Cool. Okay. So, YouTube chat is the last one that I want to make sure I'm not missing. Fantastic. This is a lot more legible. Okay. Appreciate y'all bearing with me while we do a bit of the technical support here. Get that out of here. All right. Cool. So the do not disturb. Yeah. Dungeons and Dragons. I've heard both. I've heard both. It's called AFK. All right. So if we look at this Excalibur. All right. So we're doing the office hours for Halloween edition. And we can discuss a couple things. So first off, a couple announcements. Second off, chat app review, architecture, and bubble tea. So I'm not sure how much we're going to get to today, but first of all, can share a little bit of updates because we have been on hiatus for this month. So for a lot of this month, we haven't been, I'm just going to pull up to make sure I'm caught up on chat here. Yeah, so the major update for me is that I have got, I got a new project at work. So as a lot of you know, I'm working at Synadia, the company behind NATS. NATS we'll get into a bit. I'll do a quick review. If you're not aware of NATS, if you're here on Twitch and you haven't heard me talk about this yet, we'll discuss NATS at a high level. But the cool update is that I've got a new project at work. In addition to helping out with content, making videos and educational content for NATS, and helping with a lot of the web properties. I've been helping out with a lot of our Astro-based websites, which has been really cool. Getting to dig into Starlight and a couple other things that I haven't played with as much in the past. But the major announcement is that my new project is a documentation rewrite for the NATS docs. And so if we look over here, you can see the NATS documentation, and there's a lot of really good information in here, right? So if you've worked with NATS, you've probably been through the documentation. You can find reference on nearly anything. I mean, there is just a huge amount of information in here, but it is also not the easiest to navigate, and it's also not the most beginner friendly. And so as you're, if you haven't heard anything about NATS and you come in here, you may not, oh, yes, YouTube is asking about a Twitch link, and it looks like I'm not actually signed in on YouTube to chat there. Oh, goodness. Yeah, I guess I should fix that. Oh, no. At least nothing was hidden there. Okay. Yes, we can get a link there. All right. Yeah, so I get to work on redoing, and rewrite is maybe a strong word here because a lot of the content here is really good. A lot of this is going to be adapted. We're also going to be incorporating a lot of other resources. So hoping to incorporate or at least better link things like NATS by example. So this is another example of a resource that you can go through and find a bunch of different examples with various programming languages. And there's annotated source kind of walking you through what a lot of this does. I've got the Vercel toolbar because I'm off on Vercel, so that's fun. But yeah, so NATS by example is very helpful for seeing examples. There's a lot of walkthroughs in the docs. There's a lot of reference material as well in the docs if you want to like really dig in. There's reference on the protocols, on the cluster protocol, the wire API. So there's a ton of information in here. And with the new docs initiative, what we're doing is a couple things. First of all, we're trying to reorganize some of it. So just make it a little easier first time layout, especially for people that are new to NATS, might not have seen it before. So reorganizing the categories and the structure a little bit, potentially trimming down some of this or kind of integrating a couple different pages. There's a lot of really good detail and information, but some of these get into the weeds very quickly with the reference material. So I think, where was it? There's one page that's a good example of this where you get like full reference material pretty much up front when a concept is first introduced. Yeah, like here is an example where you get the full table of configuration, which is very helpful. This is good reference material to have, but a lot of people going through kind of their first, draft on or their first visit on the docs, clicking through and kind of learning the basics, it can be a little overwhelming, right? It can be a lot of information. So we're working with a team of writers, and all of the engineers at Synadia have been helping out incredibly. So that's been really cool, and it's a new project. There's a lot that goes into that, and I'm getting up to speed really quickly. But that's one exciting thing. So we may do an office hours or an additional stream at some point, touching on this. But it's one thing that I wanted to throw out there is if you're a NATS user, if you're familiar with the docs, if you have feedback, definitely feel free to shoot me an email, shoot me a message on social media, or in Slack. I'm in the NATS community Slack there. And yeah, we're, definitely want to involve the community. We're probably going to get something public and at least a preview out within the next month or two here. And then we'll be really asking for feedback from the community. But if you'd like to join the conversation and get involved, definitely please don't reach out, or please don't hesitate to reach out. I own NATS. I do not own NATS. I am part of a company, Synadia. I mean, to be clear, NATS is open source, right? So NATS is fully open source technology. It's part of CNCF. So we're part of the Cloud Native Computing Foundation. And this is, again, you can come to the GitHub, and the NATS server is fully open source. It's Apache 2.0 license, I believe. Yep. Yeah, right over there. So NATS is itself open source technology. Synadia, as a company, employs several of the core maintainers in the open source ecosystem, right? So there's a lot of people that work at NATS who are the core maintainers for various, I mean, first of all, for the server, clearly Derek Collison right here is our CEO of Synadia. So he started the company, he invented NATS, and he has hired a bunch of brilliant engineers from the community from around the world who help out with so many clients, right? So if you go into the GitHub org, you're going to find, Java client, Rust client, Swift client, the CLI, so many different clients, libraries. There's also ARDs, architecture and design docs, Kubernetes, Helm charts. So there's quite a bit of software that's maintained here. And so, I don't think Synadia owns NATS is the right way of looking at it, but Synadia certainly is the company behind NATS in terms of a lot of the inventors of the NATS technology, both at the server level and the clients level. And you thought NATS is named after me. No, that's just a happy coincidence, actually, that my name is Nate and I like NATS. It kind of works out there. We get some alliteration. And so that's a fun little bonus of me working here. But no, I do not own NATS. I am just one of many, many people that work at Synadia. And it's been awesome. It's been a really good hello. You heard this is the top Flutter stream. That's almost accurate. Not quite Flutter. Today we're going to be doing some Go and talking through NATS. And I feel like I may have missed a couple messages over on Twitch there, but I think that's good. Thank you for the follows, Shawshank and Serenzi. Appreciate that. And nothing in the Riverside chat still. Cool. All right. So, I think that was pretty much it for the announcements. I'm really excited about the docs project. I have been digging in a lot on that. I will be returning to more of a consistent content schedule. So you can expect office hours to be starting again weekly on Thursday. We have been discussing changing the time. So today is 11 and the last one is 11 a.m., which is an hour later than we've done it in the past. I think this is going to work for the new team setup. However, I am looking, so there's a balance of time zones, right? Synadia is a very global company, and we have people in Europe, we have people, in all different time zones. And the 10 a.m. that was part of the initial reschedule was it kind of falls right in like dinner time for those European time zones. And so it's a tricky balance, right? Of like, you don't necessarily want to have people have to jump on after work hours, but if they do, you don't really want it to be like right after work when they're going for dinner. Maurice, who is an awesome contributor, he's on the core team here at Synadia. He contributes to the Java client as well as I think NATS server. So a lot of contributions. There he is in chat. Had a great time having dinner and then hopping onto these chats. Yeah, so we're trying to figure out a good slot for all the time zones. The other option, and I actually haven't talked with Maurice about this yet, but I may look at adding an office hours block on another day of the week at an earlier time that would be more EU friendly. So something like, 5 or 6 a.m. my time, which is going to land, I think, around the afternoon, like 3 or 4 Europe time. So that should be helpful. And I'll go ahead and copy the nats.io GitHub over here into chat for you because I see somebody looking for a link in Twitch chat. And this is going to be a real fun if there's... Do a new window so I can get to my Twitch session. Because yes, if you want to check out anything in the NATS GitHub, please do. Check it out. There's a lot of really cool tech over there. Like I said, a lot of client libraries. One that I'm very excited to play with, actually, is I recently acquired some ESP32s to play around a bit with embedded programming. And we've got a C client and an Arduino client, actually, that I'm going to be trying out. But yeah, so today is a little bit of a co-working office hours. So in the past, we've done a lot of sort of presentations. We've had guests and they've come on with a targeted subject or topic to talk about. And those are really helpful. And I think the community really appreciates them, especially the recordings are awesome to be able to go back and see this, different projects. We had Don sharing an IoT project that he did at a camp using NATS to coordinate lighting across this massive campsite with spotty internet and network connectivity. We also had Delaney on the last one, I believe, 3 weeks ago, about Delaney shared a multiplayer game that he'd built with Nats, and we actually had like 2,000 people in chat because we got a Primogen raid. And so that was awesome, and everybody connected, and everybody was playing this game, and we saw, millions of messages were being passed in the back end for this app. So that was really cool to see. But it's also a little harder to do things like that and have the chat interaction and have some Q&A. Sometimes when I have a guest and I'm talking with a guest, or if we have it structured as more of a presentation, more of a topic that we're bringing to the table, it can be a little harder to kind of interrupt mid-flow and get into questions that people might have. So the idea here is with the format, especially looking at the notion of office hours. Traditionally, I remember going to office hours when I was in college, and a lot of times it would be the professor or the TA in their office doing their work, right? And you could show up and ask questions if you wanted, but otherwise that was time where they're just going to be working on that work. So moving forward, like I said, we may add another day. So we might have 2 office hours a week or an office hours and a more of a presentation oriented one. But I think you can expect more content like this moving forward, where I may have some announcements. We may talk about upcoming releases. Actually, I do know a release that we could shout out to. I believe the Rust client just had a new release today. Yeah, Coder, you can check out my commands. I definitely don't have all the commands configured that I could. Oh, you're looking for my GitHub. Yeah, same as my Twitter. I don't think you can see much on my GitHub though. There's not a whole lot in there, but NATS.io, if we look at the Rust client, I believe we just had a new release. So if you use Rust, and there's some very cool applications within Rust, if you're using NATS, because Rust is already used for a lot of very performant, very high throughput systems as well as embedded systems, and NATS works very, very well on top of those. And so if we look at, okay, it's not tagged as a release. NATS v.37 is the latest. Okay, maybe it hasn't been tagged yet, or it is impending release, and we're about to have a new one. But yeah, I just saw this morning there's a new Rust client about to land. And what else? I think that's the bulk of it. All right, Rust mentioned. Checking if NATS has a command. No, yeah, I should definitely add some commands for Synadia stuff for the NATS GitHub. Swift client had a release. Perhaps I'm getting that mixed up. Maybe it was the Swift client. But yeah, like I said, there's a lot of different clients for NATS. So that is one of the, if we say install NATS, this is one of the benefits. NATS as a technology actually just celebrated its 14th birthday. So NATS began in, 2010, and it was initially written in Ruby. It's since gone through a Go rewrite, but with that, I don't want to install a server. I want to install a client. Where's the right page? So in those 14 years, they have had, yeah, still not what I'm looking for. It was like NATS clients or something. I've gone to this page a bunch of times, not server clients. Oh boy. Well, here's a couple of the languages they support. So this is actually a pretty good page for this. What is the original though? No, it's NATS clients, not server clients. Download. This is the page I'm looking for. Yeah, so you can see a list of clients. And the ones with these blue stars right here that are by the NATS authors, these are officially maintained by NATS core contributors, core team, inventors, and I think all of those individuals are employed by Synadia. And so anything with that NATS authors and a blue star is very actively maintained, and you can expect that maintenance to be kept up. But I mean, just look at all of the different clients, right? And then here, these are clients specifically that are JetStream enabled. So you'll see all of the core ones in there. A lot of these are from the community, you know, things like the MicroPython client, Common Lisp, Java, Android. There's just so many clients that have been developed over time. This PHP client I was actually just recently looking at because somebody built a Laravel tool, or a Laravel, you know, SDK, a library you can use with Laravel to do messaging with NATS. So that's been really cool. And like I said, there's you know, a client for pretty much anything you could be deving with. And at its core, NATS is all about messaging, right? And so, oh, fantastic. Cotter's actually adding these. And we had someone mention, I think it was Matt asked, should I learn Go in 2025? And somebody at DevCrest said, I'm actually confused if I should learn Rust or Go. I need to do some research on which is used when. Yeah, so I can talk a little bit about that. I think that Go is a fantastic client. No UI UA client. I'm not even sure what that is. In 2024, Go is definitely a very solid language to learn, and that's for a couple reasons. It's very easy and practical to jump into, and there's a lot of programming that just is straightforward out of the box because it has a strong standard library. It has a lot of unification in the ecosystem. So like formatting, people use Go format, right? There's a lot of things in Go that are just, there's one way to do it and everybody uses that single approach. This isn't a Swelker stream. Yeah, no. What is UI UA? Oh goodness. Array and oh gosh. All right. But yeah, so now I completely lost my train of thought. Go in 2024 is a solid language. You'll see it used. So both Go and Rust are pretty performant. If you're looking at Rust, it's more complex and more difficult. And I'm not a Rust expert, for the record. There's plenty of brilliant Rust streamers here on Twitch, and I am not one of them. But from my layman understanding, it is a very big no for me. Yeah, the esoteric languages are tricky, and Rust is not quite an esoteric language, but it is a lot more challenging. There's a lot of, you know, memory management discipline and techniques that you need to understand. There's new concepts and things like the borrow checker that you need to use. But the end result, the promise of Rust, is that you can get very performant and very correct software, right? And so the benefits of Rust is if you learn how to program within their model, you can make very, very fault tolerant and resilient software with Rust. There's a lot of things that it will force you to manage your memory in such a way that you don't get memory leaks. Yeah, again, I don't know too much on details, but that's a lot of why people like Rust is there's a theoretical correctness bound that you push with Rust. Go, I would say, is pretty solid. That's just less of a focus. They both are compiled. They both can be used in embedded stuff. But I know Rust embedded has made a lot of progress in the last couple of years too. So I think there's people that use Rust specifically for embedded devices quite a bit as well. So if that's your focus, those are reasons you might want to look at Rust. But Go is just a very solid and effective language. And I first learned Go, I think in 2012 when it was like experimental. It was like Google's new language and nobody but Google was really using it. You know, we're about a decade later here. Golang invented when, or what was it, released? It was designed in 2009. Version 1.0 was 2012. So it's been around for 12 years. It's gotten a lot of maturity and a lot of adoption. There's a pretty large ecosystem around Go. And Google themselves as stewards, right? Google writes a lot of their code in Go. And right there, it's going to guarantee you that there's quite a few people using the technology. There's quite a few people contributing. And so it's a very strong language choice in 2024, both in terms of employability and in terms of um, just effective programming. You know, you can get a lot done. Some people don't like the style, and there's pieces of it that feel burdensome. A common example is error handling. Um, but yeah, threading in Go is the main thing for me. Yeah, so asynchronous programming in Go. You have what is it? Go routines are a really big primitive. Um, but yeah, so we have a YouTube chat question here. Is communication between NATS clusters and leaf nodes bidirectional, meaning can a client connected to a leaf node publish to a subscriber connected to the main and vice versa to the main cluster? And Mavenir came in here and said, correct, a client connected anywhere to the system can talk with anyone also connected to NATS. Under developing with NATS. So you were mentioning one piece of the, or maybe that comment was helping me see where the clients were actually listed when I was struggling to find that. But yeah, so we can give a quick brief rundown. At the core, NATS is about message passing, right? And the way that it does this is with subjects. So you might be familiar if you've used systems like Kafka in topics. So in NATS, we have subjects, which is basically a string broken up by periods. So there's tokens, right? So the text in between periods is a token, and you use these periods to kind of have hierarchical layers of subjects. And this is all that you need to get and receive messages when you're using NATS. So the nice part of this is that there's location independence, right? If you have a NATS client and a NATS server, they don't need to actually understand or know the location of each other. They just need to speak the NATS protocol and know what NATS server to talk to. And then everything happens based on these subjects. So you're using subjects to determine which subscribers or which clients are interested in messages sent over a subject. And then publishers use specific subjects to actually send their messages. And the subject is very helpful for scoping. And so you have wildcards where you can use an asterisk or a greater than sign. I don't know where. Yeah, here's an example. So like the asterisk is going to match anything within that segment. Yeah, surely they introduced this at the beginning. 2 wildcards. Where do they actually describe the wildcards though? So the greater than, the caret, is the other wildcard, and that's going to match. Yeah, here we go, matching multiple tokens, and that's going to match the rest of the tokens basically. So you could have time.us.star would match time.us.east, but nothing else. If you use this open bracket, or what is that, greater than sign, it would match both time.us.east and east.atlanta, because it's going to basically catch any additional segments. But using subjects is really nice because, again, you don't have to worry about clients and servers knowing addresses for finding each other. They just need to express interest. So it's all about interest-based messaging. And if a subscriber says, I'm interested in this subject, then it's going to receive all of the messages on that subject. And there's a couple walkthroughs here of kind of your common messaging. So publish, subscribe, which is used for fan out. You have subscribers that all express interest in a subject. You have a publisher that publishes a message to that subject, and all of the subscribers will get it. You can also do request reply, which is used a lot for, we'll see, like microservices. Hey, Leah, how you doing? Good to see you. Welcome in. I'm just talking a bit about NATS as a messaging system. And so the pattern with request reply is that your publisher is going to send a message, but it's also going to expect a reply from one of the subscribers. And so this is typically less of a fan out, and this is more of an assignment where one subscriber is going to respond, and the publisher is going to get a message or an error if there's no responders available. And this is helpful for, like I said, microservices where you kind of always expect a response with a request. And the cool thing here is that as you design microservices, you get a lot of stuff out of the box with NATS. So if you have multiple subscribers watching this, just by using request and reply, it'll do some load balancing, right? So if there's multiple subscribers running, able to process a request, one of them will grab it. But if there's tons of requests coming through and tons of messages on that subject, they're going to automatically divide them between the clients that are subscribing there. And similarly, when you get to queue groups allow you to basically process the work. So you can have pull consumers that take something out of a queue. And you'll use this a lot when you have like asynchronous job servers. So if you have some image processing or some background processing that's going to happen, using queue groups is very helpful for that. Yeah, workload processing, it's very scalable. You can scale things up and down. You don't need to worry about duplicate messages. And again, you'll get that default, you'll get load balancing by default and a couple other nice bits. JetStream is an addition to NATS. And so JetStream is still a part of the core NATS server. But when you start a NATS server, you enable JetStream. And that allows you to have core NATS servers that don't have JetStream enabled that will be even more lean and performant because it's all ephemeral message passing, right? You're not actually doing storage with all of these messaging cases. So you have to be, available as a subscriber and subscribe to a topic and online when a message is sent if you want to receive that message. If a subscriber is offline and a message is sent onto the subject, that subscriber has no guarantees that it's going to get that. Wrong NATS, Tawny. That is close, but NATS with a G is different. It's all coming back to Elm. It's funny you should mention that. I assume you're talking about the Elm architecture, because I was just looking at Bubble Tea over here. You can also do JetStream in leaf nodes. Yes, and leaf nodes are a very powerful concept. We can get into that a bit. But yeah, I'm assuming you're talking about the Elm architecture, which I've been learning for Bubble Tea, which I want to use to make this TUI. So I guess we're doing a little bit of a review here. I can show the code that I've got for a basic chat app, but I do want to kind of finish our quick walkthrough here. Yeah, where's the leaf node stuff? Because that is where it gets pretty interesting. So when you get into JetStream, by adding that on, you can basically start a NAT server with JetStream enabled. Oh, and Tawny, you've actually worked with NATs. It's awesome. Yeah, good to see you. Welcome in, welcome in. So once you have JetStream enabled, now that NAT server can persist data, right? So now it's going to allow you to either to RAM or to disk, you can persist messages, and that turns essentially a subject into a stream where you have streams of data that are going to include all of the messages that have been sent in. And like I said, you can have those be super long-lived and durable using disk, or you can have them be a little more ephemeral and running memory. But that on top of JetStream, so yeah, if you look at like consumers having pull and push consumers, there's a lot of configurability in here. So you can set like the durability, how things are acknowledged, what the delivery policy is. And this allows you to basically change the architecture pretty significantly through configuration, right? So depending on what you're looking for, if you want ordered consumers, what your dispatch type is going to be, what kind of persistence you want to do, so whether it's durable or ephemeral. And this is one of the, this thumbnail actually captures something well that I want to touch on. But the other bit that's pretty cool is on top of JetStream, since it has this persistence and it has a stream of data that's accessible, there are some, essentially APIs they've added on top of it, which aren't doing a ton more than what the streams are doing fundamentally. So at a fundamental level, this key value store is using some conventions and some subject mapping and stuff to give you these operations that you're used to with a key value store. So you can put values, get values, delete, purge a key, get all of the keys associated. But under the hood, this is a really thin layer on top of that basic JetStream persistence layer. And then you get to Object Store, which is similar. It's APIs built on top of it, but this now allows you to chunk and store large files. And so you can do video files, you can do images, but you can have buckets. So this essentially becomes, as you work up the layers of functionality and capabilities of NATS, it becomes a replacement for like a lot of various technologies that you wouldn't normally put in the same category. So was it the consumers page that had that video? Yeah, so like right here you can see Kafka, RabbitMQ, Redis, Pulsar. NATS is NATS can it can replace a lot of those systems, and like you don't always think of those as the same thing. Or like an S3, that's my example with the object stores. Like you can basically make your own S3 there, and you don't normally hear people talk about Redis and Kafka and S3 in the same category. But it's sort of the power of NATS is it's so flexible. The tech and the core of it is really focused on this core message passing architecture, and then again JetStream, which brings in the persistence and some features on top of that. But using just NATS as a technology, you can have a key value store. So you could be storing a bunch of data. You could be storing user data. You could be doing, you could do like rate limiting and stuff that you would do with Redis very easily. You can also do this file storage using object store. And you can have these long-lived streams with consumers that you can make that can crawl the history of the stream and can replay stuff. It's a lot of the same stuff you would see from Kafka. And on top of that, when you get to the actual topologies possible, and this is where I'm curious. Again, I should know where these topics are, but this is one of those. This is one of those bits with the documentation, one of the pain points. So yeah, leaf nodes, what's this under? This is under configuring NAT server. So the really powerful part of the capabilities of NATS is that when you get into the, how you can deploy and set up your NAT server, and this is where we get to the topic of topologies. So you can have a NAT server in the cloud and some NATS clients that are, a front-end web application. It could be a distributed device. It could be a native application of some sort. But if you have that, the basic case is having one server in the cloud, but then you can quickly add multiple servers to convert it into a cluster, right? So you could have a server that's living in your, AWS US East data center. You could deploy another NAT server to a different region or even a different cloud provider, and you need an odd number, right, for replication. So once you start clustering, you go from one server to 3 servers to 5 servers. But when you distribute your servers this way, you get resilience and you get redundancy through a cluster. And so that's where you get a whole level of scalability, especially when you're looking at getting your services as close to the user as possible to have really low latency. So it's really powerful that you can just rapidly spin up this architecture by just deploying a NAT server in multiple data centers and having them all be part of a cluster. Then you can do super clusters where you can actually have clusters of clusters. And this gets to a whole nother level because you have gateways between them. And this is where you can do multi-cloud, multi-geo, you can do multi-tenancy even, where you have servers with specific data for specific clients. So you can actually kind of segment your data a lot more easily. And then leaf nodes is one of the really, I don't know if I would call this an advanced feature, but it's like a critical architectural capability when you're building stuff with NATS. Because a leaf node is extending a system, but it's basically a local server that is only going to receive stuff from the upstream. And so its leaf nodes are, well, let's see, bridge traffic between local NAT servers you control and servers that are managed by a third party. And that's where it's like for, what's the use case? So like for factories, right? There's a lot of companies that have a ton of factories and they might have spotty internet connections on site. But within a factory, they have a bunch of devices on the factory floor that are all clients connecting to NATS. So the factory, I did not build NATS, no, but my name is close. Yeah, Derek Collison, the CEO of Synadia, the company I work for, is the one who created NATS. But like I was saying, this factory might have a bunch of devices on the factory floor, and they can connect to a NAT server in that factory that is all over local network, right? Yes, yes, I am employed at Synadia, new job. Thank you. So that's something that's really cool because even if the factory itself has connectivity issues, as long as that local server is there, all of the devices are going to be able to communicate and send their messages and receive messages within that factory. Meanwhile, if you have that factory configured as a leaf node, it's basically extending a bigger NAT server. And so you can have this server or cluster, and it's composed of a bunch of different leaf nodes at all of these factories that are all connecting, and they're going to be able to be disconnected from the cluster and still function within their locality, and taking in all of the messages from these devices, but then not lose service or get disconnected if there's spotty connectivity, but be able to sync things back up to the cluster once that connectivity is restored. So I hope that makes sense. And I saw Maurice dropping some wisdom in the chat over here on Twitch. So Serenzi was asking, oh, Tani was letting me know to be careful with Skate if you have an ARM-based system for data corruption, which is something to check out because I've got some ARM-based stuff I've been tinkering with. Anybody in chat doing any cool things in that? So it'd be fun to see some more use cases. Personally, I'm toying with embedded vector stores on top of the object store. That's super cool, Serenzi. So I was actually curious. That's something I was thinking about, is leveraging NATS in a RAG stack. So using it for the vector databases. So I'd be curious on what that's looked like for you and what you've done that. Could I add NATS in the title? Yes, I should be able to do that. All right. You just booked your KubeCon ticket? Tawny, I will be at Utah for KubeCon. What the heck? We'll get to meet up. That's going to be awesome. Yeah, so Synadia is actually going to be, Synadia's repping at KubeCon. So we're going to have a booth. We're going to have several people there. John Noel, who's the field CTO, is going to be there. David G, I believe, one of my colleagues who's done a lot of talks and given a lot of conference talks on NATS. Yeah, there's gonna be a whole team. I think we've got like 10 people going out. Oh, Coder, you're going to the London one in April. Yeah, I don't know if we're doing the London one. And yeah, like Tawny mentioned, NATS is a CNCF project. So if you're not familiar with CNCF, it is the Cloud Native Computing Foundation. A lot of projects in here. What are the... Look at graduated. There's so many. It always blows me away. Helm, etcd, FluentD, Kubernetes, Vitesse. I don't know if I actually knew Vitesse was. Prometheus, Open Policy Agent, Jaeger. So that's all the graduated ones. What are the currently incubating projects? Here you go. Artifact Hub, Crossplane, gRPC. I don't think I realized gRPC was. That's really cool, actually. There's NATS, Open Feature, Thanos, Open Telemetry. What's this? Kubeflow. Yeah, so a lot of Kubernetes related stuff. But yeah, CNCF is awesome. And yeah, NATS is one of the projects there. Wait, was that I mean, I guess I did know that. Yeah, the KubeCon doubles up as Cloud Native Con. But yeah, super, super cool stuff. Tani will be at London. Yeah, I don't know if I'll be at London. That would be... Maurice is likely to be there, so Maurice at least will be repping NATS. I'm not sure if I will be going to London, but I'll have to talk to people and see. You probably walked past each other. Nice. Yeah, Argo's pretty cool. You used Helm, I still have nightmares. Yeah, all of my homework has been largely receiving Helm charts from others to help me out. The cost for going to the American one or the European one is more or less the same, a few hundred disks. Interesting. I guess from your location, yeah. For me, it would be a lot more expensive to go to a Europe one compared to US, but if you're outside of both countries, I guess it's pretty much a wash. And there is a lot to do in Europe. I like America, but Europe does have some pretty awesome things to do as a tourist, so I'm not going to fight you there. Barcelona is where Istio was announced. Oh, okay. Yeah, that'll be super cool. All right, so we've talked through a bit of NATS, and this is helpful for me because I actually have a YouTube video coming out on the Synadia channel, and that's going to be my first video on the channel. It's an intro to NATS. I've talked through a lot of the stuff that I talked through in that video on this stream, but I know a lot of people in the Twitch chat here haven't heard of or worked with NATS before, so I hope that was helpful in giving a bit of background. And where is Kitty? All right. So here is the chat client that I have, and this is something that I built for that video, right? So this is a super simple chat application and using NATS as the backend. So this is a chat client written in Go. And if we want to demo it, code / Synadia videos. So first off, we start a NAT server, and I'm going to start it with JetStream enabled, and then go run main.go CLI, I think is how I set this up. So yeah, if I put in my username as Nate, and I do test, it's receiving that message. If we want to, what's the shortcut here for a new window? Control Enter. So I can come over here, start the Synadia videos, start another chat client, and here we can be Fred. And so we get a message from Fred, we get a message from Nate. Hello, Fred. And so right here you can see very basic, simple chat application. You type in your username, you get connected, and it's all running over this NAT server. So right now this is a local server that's just running on my machine, super simple. But the main issue here is that if we cancel this client and then we send a couple more messages, now if we connect as a new client and we will say Tawny is this chatter, you're not going to see the history, right? So when you connect, you're going to miss all of the messages that were sent. This client requires you to be connected when messages are sent to see them, which obviously is not necessarily ideal or how a lot of chat applications work. But we can quickly run through this because it is pretty quick. 75 lines of code. So yeah, I was going to say it's not too much code. It is written in Go, and this is using the official NATS Go client. And you'll see I'm using JSON for the messages. So I'm encoding a username and a sent at time. And then we have the content, which is just the string for the chat message. And then using the client, it's very straightforward. So I have a debug line here that I actually maybe want to not have. But that just prints out the local, connection string. So this is my local host. So you connect to NATS using the default URL. I then read in the username. So this is just letting you type in a username. And then we subscribe. So I make a subscriber on this chat subject. And you'll see that's the subject that we're using to send messages on. We unmarshal the JSON. So we're parsing the fields out of JSON. And then we print the message in this way where it's just the time sent, and then the username, and then the content of the chat message, right? So very straightforward, very simple. And then we have, this is just the scan loop that's going to read contents in and then construct chat messages, encode them in JSON, and use this publish right here on line 68. So it's going to just be publishing those messages straight into that chat subject. Now, like we mentioned, you're not going to get those messages if you're not connected when they're sent. So this is a durable CLI client, and this is now incorporating JetStream. So this imports the JetStream client API, which gives you access to different primitives and different APIs working with the JetStream client. Now I've already started this server with the JetStream flag, right? So this NAT server that's currently running on my machine already has JetStream and persistence enabled. So we can, instead of our CLI client, we can run our CLI durable client. So again, I'll put in Nate, and then I'll open this new one. And we'll do go run main.go, CLI durable. And so I can do 1, 2, 3. Really do not know what's happening with the formatting there. I think I hit a arrow or something that screwed up the TTY there. However, if we now start another one and we'll say John got 3, but he didn't get the ones before that. Why did that come out looking so funny? Interesting. I might have some kind of bug here because this certainly seems to be doing something weird with the printing things out. I don't think I changed any of this code. Huh. I don't know why it's showing up like that. Is this a kitty issue? Yeah, y'all saw that, right? That was a super weird main.go CLI durable. So it got one message. So what? This is the rest of my message. So this should be on the line down here, but instead it got written over an earlier line. And the other bit is that this should pull everything from the history. Let's call this one Kevin. So now we're getting 3 ASD, ABC, DEF. This looks fine. So I don't know if that was just like when I first started it up. Yeah, I don't know why it's getting interleaving stuff, but hey, that's what happens with terminal user interface. Rust Ratatouille is great for TUI building. Nice, nice. Yeah, Rust, there's some really good TUIs built in Rust for sure. My idea here is to use bubble tea. So I'm hoping to use bubble tea to, you know, make it a little more dynamic. You can do some really cool things here. And we're already using Go as the primary language. But let's walk through this really quick so I can show y'all, because that was the, what was it? The initial CLI client was 74 lines of code. The one with durability, where we're actually persisting the messages, is 96 lines of code. And being Go, a lot of that is error handling, right? So I actually have a, what is it? I have an abridged code that I'm using for the video for screenshots, and that's 72 lines, right? So 72 lines of code when I trimmed out some error handling to have fully persisted chat feature and functionality. If you look at the actual calls here, it's not too different. We grab a context that we're using throughout things, but we have this same NATS connection, and then we get a JetStream object. And then JetStream is what we use to create a stream. So this is going to make a stream that is interested in all subjects under chat. And where did I actually do the, so the actual subject I'm using for this is chat.messages. So that's where we're publishing the chat. And it's going to create the stream, gather the username, which this code's the same. And then we create an ephemeral consumer. Nice color scheme. Thank you. It is Capuchin Mocha, I believe. But yeah, just nice high contrast, decent color scheme. So this is where we create or update a consumer. And it's an explicit ACK policy. This should be an ephemeral consumer. So when you start up this client, it creates a new consumer, and then it's going to consume starting from the beginning of time. And so that's where we should get all of the messages, including those in the past. And so we're passing a function to this consume, right? And so this is asynchronous, and this will receive more messages as they come in. And again, we're just unmarshalling the JSON and printing it out. Again, I don't know exactly why we got that weird interleaving of messages in the terminal when I first ran it. I'd be curious if we restart the server. The streams are still going to be there though. NATS stream ls. Oh yeah, duh. NATS stream purge, right? So purge chat stream. And now if we restart, it should be brand new and it shouldn't have anything to stream. So let's quit both of these clients. Come back in here. Nate, test 1, test 2, test 3. Now you come over here and we'll have Maurice. And he gets all 3 of those messages. Yeah, I don't know what was happening earlier there. It's not Capuchin? Are you sure? I'm like 98% sure it is Capuchin Mocha. Where's their screenshots? I don't know. Terminal is Capuchin, Invim's not. Oh, maybe you're right. Yeah, I can check my dot files later. But yeah. All right, Maurice, you fixed it? What did you fix? Oh, just because Maurice was the one that logged in here. Yeah, that's a good point. Maurice is the reason that worked so well. So this is the chat app that we're currently using. And again, right now, this is very, very simple, right? This is just using, printf scanners on the buffer, or buff.io scanners on standard in, and just reading things in that way. So my idea today, and we are getting near the end of our time, but was to go through and try adding and incorporating bubble tea. Tokyo Dark, thank you. That makes sense. Yeah, Tokyo Dark is this color scheme. This color scheme is mocha. Good point. So my thinking, we can architect this out a little bit because I don't think we'll get to that. We did some announcements. We talked a bit about the chat app. So what I'm curious about is a couple things. We're going to extend this XQC manager. What's up? Welcome in. So the core right now is that all of these messages are going out over. So let's say this is our server. So let's say we got our server here. I don't know. That seems to work. So let's say we've got our NATS server, and then we've got a couple clients. So the server is, well, I'm going to do this a little differently. We'll use a diamond to say chat.messages. And the diamonds isn't the best for the rounded corners here. So this is the subject. And my Excala drawing is not the best. So right now, clients are going to send stuff via this subject, and they're also going to receive the messages. So as these get communicated back to the server is then going to propagate them back out. And the subject isn't really an entity, so maybe this isn't the best maybe this isn't the best thing in terms of showing the exact infrastructure entities that's happening here. But you get the idea that everything's happening over this subject. Now, what I'd like to do is add a couple things. Thank you, Saif Adam, for the follow, by the way, and Vanishing Ideal. Appreciate the follows from everyone. So I want to make a couple extensions to this, right? First of all, we're going to add in a proper TUI with charm, but we want to allow different chat rooms, essentially. I was going to say topics or subjects, but those are overloaded terms here. So we could use Go routines for sure. We could make this async, but for now, my main focus is first of all, adding rooms so that you can have different chat rooms available. And so real simply, the way that we can modify this to incorporate that is we could add in different chat subjects, right? So, dude, I wish I could, I guess if I zoomed out a little bit. So in this case, we might want to have multiple subjects here, right? So you've got chat dot, let's see, let's say that these are chat rooms based on programming languages, right? So you have chat.go.messages, and then you could have chat.rust.messages. And so here we've got two different subjects, and they'll fundamentally look very similar, right? The messages we're passing in still have, they're going to use that same JSON format, right? So we're still using this type up here. Where do I have it? Yeah, I've got the type right here. Close that one. But yes, we're still encoding these, JSON messages that we're sending across, but now we send them over different subjects. And the way that you can code this is you could have a client create a consumer for a subject when they go to log into that chat room. So this is going to be the first difference to the architecture here. And of course, you can have these going to multiple clients, right? So each client could be consuming from multiple subjects. So ultimately, it's going to broadcast all these things out. How would you classify chat subjects here? Are you going to use AI? No, I'll probably just hard code some subjects, and or we can have it be user supplied, right? And so you could have it where you just type in the name of the chat room you want, and have that be dynamically used as the subject. Maurice, let me know if that's a terrible idea for some reason. But yeah, so the idea is just by modifying the subjects, you can build the system to actually pay attention to all of these things. Now, what I'm really curious about is I think there's a couple extensions that I want to make early on, right? And so the first is breaking out so you have different chat rooms. The second is, well, maybe not the second I do, but you want some kind of authorization, right? And that's going to get into how to do authorization in NATS and authentication, which there's a couple different strategies and approaches. But ultimately, I'll probably want to incorporate an auth callout where you actually have the NATS server make a call out to a different authentication service so that people can actually log in with Google or log in with Discord, and you can do an OAuth flow and then use the actual JOTs from those services to do your authentication and authorization. And the NATS server is just leveraging and storing those same JOTs, the same tokens and strings that you're using to authenticate there, but making service requests calling out to those other auth services to actually verify the authenticity and the permissions of different users. So this is kind of step one extension, chat rooms. So expanding all of the subjects and topics that we have. Then we've got step two. We can actually do auth. And auth callout is going to, how exactly would I show this? This would be, you basically have an auth service in the cloud, something that's like, Google OAuth. And you'll actually have, I believe both clients are going to hit this when they do the login flow. So you'll actually send them to Google OAuth and they'll log in and then get a JOT back. They're going to pass that JOT back into the server, and then the server can use that JOT later on to actually authenticate. So having auth in there is going to be a pretty big one, because then we can actually have protected usernames. So when people are logging in, we're actually checking that you are that specific user based on, where you've logged in with another service. And then where I'm really curious, and again, these diagrams might not make a ton of sense in terms of like the actual architecture, but I think something that's going to be pretty fun after that point is I want to add in a bit of a real-time data, or real-time analytics might be a good thing, or a good way of phrasing that. So incorporating the real-time analytics means that we're going to add new subjects. See, again, I'm like, I don't really know how helpful of a diagram this is at this point. But you could have chat.go.metadata, or stats could be one that we use. So you do chat.go.stats, and this we can actually use as a KV, or we can have a stream. Yeah, I guess we can have the subject that we're sending this over, but then we're going to have a stream that is leveraging a KV to actually input. So it can see, how many messages each user has sent in each of these chats. Additionally, we could have a base chat.stats, which would be statistics for all of the chat rooms, right? So you could have this scoped into the chat room, and this is going to have a KV. So we'll just put KV under these. And that'll allow us to start incorporating some more of the features of JetStream here, using NER, name entity recognition. How would you classify chat? So you can use NL to automatically identify subjects feeds. Yeah, okay, so you're talking on... Yes, when I say subjects here, I'm talking specifically like a subject, the way NATS addresses messages to subjects. So anytime a message goes out in NATS, it's going to send it tied to a specific subject. What you're talking about is sort of analyzing the content of the chat messages to actually give a description of what the chat message itself is about. So now I understand your initial question on using the AI. But yeah, that would be really cool. So doing like actual natural language processing, or NLP, to determine, the intention of the messages. Yeah, that could be pretty cool actually. That could be a really fascinating application, because you could have it, for example, rate messages on for moderation. You could have it use AI to analyze the potential offensiveness of a message, right? And it could be looking for like profanity or mean language or whatever. So you could have a service that's actually running some kind of NLP process over these messages and categorizing them. And then that could go back into something like these stats KVs as well. So you could actually have it be tracking, for different users, how likely their messages are to be harmful or to flag abuse and things like that. I like that idea. That's a great idea. Yeah, that could be really cool actually to see. That's what you were working on last year, Coder. Interesting. The kind of automatic chat assessment, or the kind of reading chat stuff. And there's a lot of ways that I can expand this too. So I think I'm excited to get into it. And again, this is one of those things where it's like, this is a project for learning and for fun. This isn't necessarily like I'm building the next huge chat system or anything like that. I'm not, I'm under no pretenses here that this is going to be a crazy product that's going to take off. But it's helpful for me as I'm kind of learning and working through a lot of the stuff with NATS. And I think it's going to be cool to demonstrate a lot of the capabilities, because when you look at adding in certain things, especially when we get to like some of the user stuff, when we get to scalability, and you get to integration, you can have clients that are actually feeding messages in, sourcing from other locations. And so one of the things I want to do with this is ultimately I can create a client that's not a CLI client where you go in and type messages, but I can create a client that's actually a Twitch integration. And that'll be one client that I connect to my NAT system, and it's just going to be reading chat messages from Twitch or whatever, right? I can use the IRC connector and have it basically read in a stream of all of the Twitch chat messages. And that's where I think it gets really cool in terms of like applicabilities. I could make clients to ingest messages from different services and then run analysis and analytics across all of them. So you could actually keep track of people that are chatting on Twitch, on YouTube, even in like a Discord or something, right? As long as you make a client that has an integration ingesting messages and passing them in with the right format, you can really expand this to be a kind of multi-client chat ingestion system. And yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff that you can do with this. So this was super fun. We're at 20 past the hour. Typically, office hours run for an hour. I think, like I was saying, I'm going to potentially get some more time slots going that are just some co-working like this. We'll do some more casual streams. We also are going to have more guests and be doing more of the topical chats. I think those are really nice. Although we might break them up a little more. So it's kind of like the first half hour is talking about a specific use case. Or giving a presentation on something, and then the second half hour is more Q&A with chat. I think that'll help set expectations. But yeah, overall, other than this feeling a little odd to be alone and not have music while I'm live, this has been a really fun stream. I got, some of the technical stuff moved around for the difference between Twitch and Riverside, and I appreciate everybody showing up. This has been a great time. I think we're going to shut down the Riverside recording now, but I'll be back next week. And there will also be the YouTube video that I prepared this initial chat thing for. I'm finishing up the editing there, and that should be going up later today. So keep an eye out on the Synadia YouTube channel, and I will go ahead and drop that. If you're on YouTube, you certainly know where the YouTube channel is. So I don't think I need to let you know, but youtube.com, Synadia, kind of one-shot it. Yes, the YouTube command is my YouTube channel, which is quite dead from the last year or so, but we'll get some more stuff up on there at some point. Right now, I'm more focused on this Synadia YouTube channel. So yeah, Synadia Communications, keep an eye out there for my first, as a Synadia employee, my first video. But yeah, this has been super fun. Thank you everybody for hanging out. I will close down the Riverside stream now, and then we will find somebody on Twitch to host. But like I said, keep an eye out for that YouTube video. Next week, we'll be back. I think I might do early morning on Tuesday to do a little bit more of a co-working stream, maybe build out, do some of the chat rooms and potentially auth stuff. So do a little bit of work in that together on the stream, and we can show how we kind of adapt the server. We'll get in and actually do some more intensive server configuration here, as well as, rewrite pieces of the client so they're able to do things. And yeah, I don't know if I'll do the bubble tea. I might get into off stream because that's going to be some learning for me. I haven't used the Elm architecture before either, so it's like, that might be a little bit of stubbing my toe as I wrap my head around things. But yeah, keep an eye out. A lot of exciting content coming up. I can't wait to get in and do more here. And then also, this may be way down the line because I'm still figuring out how to do hardware. But if you missed earlier, I picked up a couple ESP32s. So I actually have these very tiny embedded devices, basically like a Arduino on steroids. And I have some ideas for IoT applications around my house. So I'm going to be doing some distributed stuff, linking up these really tiny little computers with just a couple sensors each, and connecting them all through NATS. So I'm excited to play around a bit with IoT and embedded systems. Is something I've not done as much of in my life. I've done a lot of web development, a lot of web architectures and systems. So I'm excited to get in on a very constrained platform. It's different in a lot of ways, but I'm excited to be playing around with that. So other things to look forward to. We'll have probably some videos and streams digging in more on some of the kind of low level and hardware stuff. But yeah, thanks again for hanging out. Appreciate you all being here, and we'll see you next week. All right.